Perfect if Jerd's movement is impaired at all. That's it.
Oh, he clipped him!
He caught it. He's been looking for that head kick. It is over.
Wow! Ladies and gentlemen, Mokaev is the new Brave Combat Federation flyweight champion of the world!
Alrighty then, ladies and germs. It would appear that we might be staring down the barrel of the return of one of the more infamous little whippersnappers in recent UFC history. Mokaev just won the first ever Brave FC flyweight title by way of head kick KO, probably his most visually stunning win since his UFC debut against Cody Durden a while back. And he said beforehand that Hunter Campbell would be tuning in. I guess that we'd have to see how things shake out. Well, following the fight, it's clear that he has his sights set on the same goal.
So everything that you do, every decision, every win, every fight, would you say that's all towards getting back to the UFC? Is that your main motivation? Are you trying to win as spectacularly as possible, do all the right things to get back into the company, back in their good graces? Is that fair?
If I say no, I will lie.
Okay.
Yes.
And you know what I think? You know what my large and rather impressive brain is cooking up right now? I say let him back in. Let's let him back in the deep end of the pool. Carried himself like a jackass and managed to piss off everyone in charge over at the UFC. He was a shitlord. He was kind of boring on top of that. But I think he served his exile sentence well enough. I say we let him back in. For those of you who don't know, since he wasn't exactly a household name in his brief time under the spotlight, Mokaev was a rising contender in the flyweight division of the UFC from his debut in early 2022 to his departure in summer of 2024. And in just 2 years in the promotion, he damn near got himself into the title picture at a very young age. He walked so Joshua Van could run. Mind you, this dude just turned 25 like a few months ago. He went on undefeated 7-0 under the UFC banner from the age of 21 to just shy of 24. And while the technique wasn't always the prettiest to look at, well, it kind of seemed like he was snatching wins from fights that were by no means going his way. While it was kind of cardboard flavored to watch sometimes, his run was impressive and his potential was limitless. And again, if we compare him to fellow youngster Joshua Van, this new breed of flyweight being as good as they are at such an early stage makes you wonder what kind of monstrous things they're going to do to people by the time they hit 30. He debuts against Cody Durden in early 2022. There's a flying knee that sends him crashing to the ground where he follows up with a guillotine, all in the first minute of the fight, by the way. So pretty impressive debut. He then thoroughly manhandles Charles Johnson to a decision, where it was a bit of a smudge grappling session. We were able to see how dominant this kid can be when he has the edge on the ground. He's wise beyond his years, if you will. And this is one in particular that's aged incredibly well given the run Johnson's been on lately. You know, he's the prospect killer now. So this is a damn good win looking back. He then dominates Malcolm Gordon before a submission in the third, has a closer and kind of sloppier back and forth with Rafael Filho, before also submitting him in the third. And then he gets in there with your friendly neighborhood caveman flyweight litmus test in Tim Elliott, where let's be real, he got this win by the skin of his teeth. Elliott is a weird test for anyone given his proficiency on the ground and his truly bizarre striking style, and he seemed to be a bit too much for Mokaev at this stage. That is, until he found himself caught in yet another third-round submission. He was well on his way to his first loss. He snatched it right back. Then have a pretty tepid, pretty close, pretty boring decision win over Alex Perez in the Apex. Not much to this one, really. And then he'd cap off his UFC run with a truly, and I mean truly, abominable fight against Manel Kape at UFC 304. People weren't exactly hot on this guy beforehand, but holy shit, this fight was the nail in the coffin for a good while. The people have kind of turned around to Mokaev. He's kind of back in people's good graces a little bit, but people were not fucking with him after this fight. There was all this animosity, all this heated buildup between the two guys leading in. We heard stories about a fight backstage. Ooh, added some zing to a matchup that was probably not going to be all that enjoyable, for being real. And yeah, this one kind of sucked. Both guys seemed very uninterested in punching or kicking or taking down each other. And at points the ref had to clap at them and like tell them, hey, you guys have to fight, you know. Come on. Usually you hear that kind of thing when fighters are stalling on the ground, but no, they were standing at range, not doing anything. In fact, the only memorable thing that happened in the entire fight was Mokaev grabbing Kape's shorts and damn near flashing the entire audience. That was great. This one stunk and smelled and reeked of piss and diarrhea. And soon after, Mokaev found himself cut from the promotion.
I'm sure one of the matchmakers probably said something to him or whatever, but yeah, the matchmakers aren't big fans of his for many different reasons, and not just there's a lot of people who shoot takedowns in this business. You know, a lot of guys that fight with that type of style, but it's a lot more than just that.
But Mokaev is the guy that you'd want to bring back to the UFC because he said his contract is totally done now.
Yeah, he is. He's under contract. He's not under contract anymore.
Okay. But would you be interested in, keeping him around in the fall?
I think the PFL is going to get a great undefeated guy.
Really?
Good luck to him.
Now, despite what the rumors were, I don't think this was just because of his, let's say, not entertaining style. He was developing a bit of a reputation of stinking things up if he wasn't able to dominate and submit his opponent, a la Jailton Almeida. But this was definitely more just because he was kind of a diva behind the scenes. We didn't hear everything that went down, but honestly, the story about him luring Kape in for a picture and then jumping him was bad enough. That is some scumbaggery right there. And I'm not surprised they cut him loose if there was more on top of that. And him putting on such a stinker was probably just icing on the shit cake. It would have been a little more ridiculous to the fan base that they let him go if he went in there and destroyed Kape and then staked his claim for a Pantoja matchup right after. But it being so drab and people just kind of not caring for him in general made their lives a lot easier, I'm sure. I get why they let him go. I get why he wasn't a fan favorite. And look, I'm not even a big fan of the guy, even now. I don't love him. And I also get that the last 4 of his wins were either razor close or he looked like he was kind of just straight up losing before finding a submission. But hey, look, does it really matter? A win is a win. No one cares that Derek Lewis looks like roadkill in there before finding a knockout blow in literally every win he's ever had. It's just that this one is less explosive, so people have a problem with it. I actually think we can count it as a good thing that he can still find his way to a win in late stages despite being thoroughly behind on the scorecards. I think that's an asset, actually. I get that he was a nightmare to deal with behind the scenes. I get that they were more than sick of him. Well, surely the kid's learned his lesson now, right? And let's not forget they've let bigger things slide. Nate Diaz and Khamzat Chimaev found themselves in a very, very similar situation backstage that led to the press conference being canceled last minute. They weren't about to cut either guy over it, because those guys bring in the big dollars. He served his sentence in the regional scene. I think being kicked to the curb will have humbled him a good bit, so he shouldn't act out again. And also, most importantly, this dude is one of the best flyweights on planet Earth right now. Get him back in there against a ranked opponent, let him build himself back up, and then let's see that Tatsuro Taira matchup. Let's see that Joshua Van matchup, or the Pantoja matchup. I love watching 125ers duke it out like shonen characters as much as the next guy. Don't get me wrong, but we cannot be passing up talent if we can help it. Boring or no, this guy was taking out everyone in his path. And he's still undefeated, and he's still improving. That most recent performance was probably the best I've ever seen him. It was against lesser competition, but still. If we want the best versus the best, then we want Muhammad Mokaev back in the UFC.